In this video I'm going to be showing you how to create animations with CSS transitions, and we're going to be building this demo. As I hover over the gradient background, you can see the emoji of the thumb moving diagonally and rotating and resizing at the same time. And if you pay attention to the gradient background, that also transitions to a different color. As you can see here, it starts off red, orange and red, and it ends up as blue. Okay, there are two types of animations in CSS. You can do CSS Transition or CSS Animations. So what are the difference between these two? In CSS Transitions, you animate from start state to an end state, and you would use CSS Animations for complicated animation sequences with multiple steps. Now, what are the difference between the two? Okay, CSS Transition needs a trigger, something like a hover or a click on a button. And it works well with JavaScript, can only animate between two states though. In CSS Animation, you can start it automatically and you can loop as many times as you want. And you can also do multi-step animation, but it's not easy to control with JavaScript. So here's a little sample code. As you can see here, the first sample code is for a transition. So the code is quite simple. You have a transition property, and then you say what you want to animate and how many seconds, and you have an easing function as well. So, and as you can see on the second selector, you activate it with a hover. So when you hover over it, you change the color. So in the second snippet of code, where we're looking at CSS animation, so you have this sort of a block of code with starting with keyframes, and within there you'll have all the steps. So you can have 0%, 20%, 8%, or you can even have it like incremental with 1%, 2%. So you can have as many steps as you want, and then you can change in those steps. You can change individual properties. So this is like a sort of a function. Then within the element that you want to animate, you call that function. So I called it my animation, and so the keyframe is called my animation. Then you specify how long you want and a number of times you want to run the animation. So that's how keyframes are coded. So in this video I'm going to be covering CSS Transition, and in particular the properties, transition delay, transition duration, transition property, transition timing functions. And we're going to also customize the easing functions and animate movements using scaling, rotate and translate functions, and also animate background gradient image. So if you like these types of videos, please subscribe to my channel and let's get started. So I'm in my VS Code and I've got index.html set up already. So I'm going to go ahead and create some boilerplate with a standard HTML markup. And inside the body I'm going to have a .animate wrapper, animate. And within there I'm going to have a wrapper with a class name thumb. Okay, then within that thumb I'm going to put an emoji of a thumb. Okay, so I'm going to press Control on the Windows. I'm going to press Windows and Window key and semicolon, and I'll get the pop-up for the emojis. And I think on the Mac you have to press something like function. Okay, so I've got a little emoji there. Now I'm going to be styling this. So I'm going to go to the head and I'm going to put a style tag. And within there I'm going to say .animate. And for the animate wrapper, I'm going to have as position, it's going to be absolute. And then I'm going to have a width, which is going to be 100 dw, and height of, let's say 40 view height. Okay, and then I'm going to create a sort of a background image, a fake background image using a linear gradient. Okay, so in linear gradient, you can just specify some colors and it'll create a sort of a fake background image. So I'm going to give it some colors, orange, and then a red, a purple, and a blue. Okay, so So if I run that on the live server, okay, so that's what it looks like at the moment. So I'm going to style the thumb now. So I'm going to say dot thumb, and I'm going to have it display as an inline block. So display inline block, and then I'm going to have the font size of 3 RPM, and then I'm going to position this absolute. And then I'm going to give it a left position of 3 RPM. If I look at what I've got, okay, so it's so I've got this sort of a big thumb thing. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Okay, next we're going to animate the thumb. So we're going to make it sort of go diagonally across the screen. So we're going to be using a transition method to animate everything. So just to recap, I'm just going to paste something here just to go over how we're going to be using the transition property. Okay, the transition property has 4 values. The transition property, which is the thing that we're going to be animating. Then you also specify a duration, which is how long should it run for. Then there's this transition timing, which is sort of every animation can have like different speeds throughout the animation. So at the beginning it could be fast, and at the end it could be slow, or you can have it slow at the beginning and slow at the end. So that's what the timing is all about. Then you can also specify a delay. So if you got like 2 or 3 animations, you can sort of wait for the first to finish. So if the first one finishes after 1 second, so you've got the delay 1 second for the second one. So that's how the delay works. Now you can individually specify these values, or you can use a shorthand method, which is like here, as I'm highlighting. Okay, you got the transition, then you got the property. In this example, I've got color, and then 4 seconds as the duration. Then ease in, ease out is the timing function, and 1 second delay. So this is the shorthand, and this is the long version of it. And so if you've got like multiple things that you want to animate, then you put a comma there. So here I've got the color 1 second, and then I got border 2 seconds, and background 1.5 seconds. So, and as you can see, you don't have to specify all 4. You can just have the property and the duration. So, and you can leave out the timing function and delay. Okay, so, or you can do animate all, which means sort of you can run all. You can specify animation for all of these. For 1 second. So this is a little bit sort of you can get into some problems because you don't know what you're animating. So it's always advisable to sort of specify what you're animating, even though you can do this, which is easier, but you might run into problems. Okay, so we're going to be sort of using the a shorthand version here. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this because it's just for notes. Okay, I'm just going to leave that. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my code. Right, and so we're going to be animating the thumb, and we're going to animate it when we hover the animate wrapper. Okay, so remember, transition animation needs a trigger, something like a hover or a click. So then you target the hover state. So you using the pseudo hover. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. So what we're going to target is dot animate, okay, and colon hover, and then we're going to specify the thumb dot thumb. Okay, so now we're going to change properties of the thumb when the animate is hovered. So that's how you do that. Okay, so we've got the starting state of our animation there, and we're going to have the ending state here. So in our starting state for our thumb, we're going to say that we're going to use transition animation here, and then we're going to say what property and how many seconds. Okay, so in when we're working with animations, the best way to sort of move things around, rotate things, is to use the transform property. Okay, so we're going to say transform and 1 second. Okay, now a bit about the transform property. I'll just go to the MDM site here. Okay, so I'm on the MDM site for transform. So transform property as can take different values, or rather functions. So it can be translate, okay, which is here, which moves things from specifying the x value and the y value. So it moves according to these values. Or you can transform a scale, which means you can make it bigger. So if I say like I change the value to 3, so it makes it big. Or if I put 0.5, it makes it small. So you can scale things with this, and remember, you can take 1 value or 2 values. It's best to do 1 value because otherwise, it becomes distorted. So basically, when you specify 2 values, say there, it becomes squashed. So you're saying reduce the width, but increase the height, doubling it. So when you're scaling, it's usual practice to use 1 value. Okay, so something like this, so that this doubles the size. Okay, then also you got a rotate as well. Rotate, you can use turns, or you can use degrees, like 90 degrees. Okay, so then you'll rotate it 90 degrees. So there's things that you need to be aware of, and you can also skew things. Okay, so and with transform, you can also specify, like, you can scale something and translate it. So you can move it and scale it, or move it and scale it as well. So you can have transform. You can have the first function, space, then followed by second function, and you can have multiple functions like that. So going back to our code, so we're going to transform our thumb, and it's going to take 1 second. So in the transform, we can specify, well, in the animate.hover thumb selector, that's the end state, we can say transform, and we say translate, and we're going to move it x across and y down. So we're going to say we're going to move 80 view width across, and then we're going to say comma, and we're going to say 25 view height down. Okay, so if I save that and go to so that animates our thumb nicely diagonally across our animate wrapper. So if I go back to our code and in the CSS, so I put the transition on the starting state, which is the thumb selector, and the ending state is the thumb selector on hover over the animate wrapper. So so I'm specifying the pseudo class hover there. Okay, so that's the starting state and that's the ending state, and all we're doing is we're using translate to move it across 80 view width and down 25 view height. Okay, so now we can add an easing function. So the easing function, or the timing function, is a way to control the acceleration of at the start and at the end and the middle. So usually you can just specify by ease or ease in or easing out. Okay, so we're gonna do just ease, and I'm gonna save this, and I'm gonna go back. Okay, so this is basically what it was before, but what we can do is we can look at, if I inspect the code and select the thumb class. Okay, so I got the style there. Now under the transition, we've got the ease function, and if we click on it, then it gives you this curve. Now it's got these handles that you can pull across and play around with, and then when you change it, then when you change it, then you see the type of animation it's going to come out with. So, like here, you got the ball going across, and at the beginning you've got this sort of they're close together, then it goes further apart, then it goes close together. So when it's close together, it means it's slowing, and when it's further apart, then it's accelerating. So if I do something like this, you know, there's a different. So there's it goes really fast there. So if I you see in the middle it goes really fast. So that's how you're controlling acceleration. So you can also put it like this. Then it sort of gives you a kickback. So you've got the curve at the peak point, which is higher than the end point, and the peak point at the lower end is higher than the start point. So if you apply this, it sort of kicks back. So there's different variations that you can play around with, and remember, when you change this doesn't change your code. But if you want to use any of these animations that you've created, so you can just so I'm just going to select the one that's going to be quite good. Okay, so we're going to choose this, and now this has produced a function that we can use in our CSS. So this is a cubic Bezier function with a custom ease in, ease out. Okay, so I just copy that, select that, and copy that, and I go back to the code, and instead of ease, I can just paste that code in there. So now we've got a custom ease in, ease out function. So if I save that to the browser and I just close the debugger, okay. So now we've got a custom ease in, ease out function. Okay, so going back, so that's how you define your own custom easing function using the cubic Bezier. Okay, so now what we need to do is we can add a rotation to it as well. So we want to turn it. So in the going back to animate over dot thumb selector, I can just put a space after the translate and then do rotate. And in the rotate, I'm going to say 360 degrees. Okay, so this is going to turn it 360. So there you go. Okay, so I can have a little fun with this. If I say something like 36,000 degrees, I'll save that, and it's going to give you a really sort of a wild spin to it. Okay, so you can keep it like this if you want, but we just keep put it back to it. So you can specify, you know, how many degrees you want. So we're just doing one turn. So then also remember we're doing multiple transform, and so you just put a space after each one, and then you can specify something else. So we're going to do a scale. Right, so we're going to scale it 5 times. Okay, so it's going to be really big. There you go. Okay, so going back, so I'm going to scale it 3 times. So, there you go. Okay. So next we're going to animate our background image for our animate wrapper. Okay, so currently the way to do that is we need to give the background image a larger size so that it will be hidden. So larger size than what we're given here. So we've got the width as 100 view width and height as 40 view height. So if we give it a height of 80 view height, so to give that image background image a size, you need to do background size, okay, and then you specify the width and height. So I'll say 100 view width, and then the height is going to be double what we have at the top. We've given it 40, so we give it 80 view height. Okay, so this should make half of it hidden. Okay, so now you only see the orange and red. So if I go in the debugger and just put it back to what it was, So if I give it a view of 40, view height of 40, now you can see all of it. So if I give it 50, then it gets hidden. Then parts, if I give it 60, then a bit more of the background image gets hidden. So 80 is sort of, you see half of the image. Okay, so now we're going to animate it so that it pulls up. Okay, so if I go back, and the way to do that is first we're going to give a transition property. Okay, and we're going to say 1 second, animate the background. Okay, so we're not using the transition for this. Okay, so now we need to add the end state, which will be in the animate colon hover. So we go down, say dot animate hover, and we're going to say background. Now what we're going to do is we're going to give a background position. Okay, and the position is going to be we're going to go we're going to get the coordinates of the point that we want to pull up. So we would say we want to go 0 across. So we want to go 0 across, and we want to go minus 40 view height. Okay, so when we specify the position, we're going from the top left corner and we're going down. Okay, so that's, and we're pulling that up from there. Okay, so if I save that and go back, there you go. So now you see the other half of the background image, and it sort of scrolls up smoothly. Okay. Now you can add a delay to this. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to give it a delay. So we go back up to our animate initial state, and so we're going to say transition 1 second background, and we just give it an ease as well, and we can change that if we want to, and then we give it a delay, say 0.6 seconds. Okay, so now it should give it a delay before it scrolls up. Okay, so if we go back, so now it scrolls up. So there's a delay happening, so it's not immediate when the scrolling happens. Okay. So I can change the delay just to see what other numbers we give. So say if I put 2 seconds, and I'll save that, go, and now if I hover over it, so there'll be like a 2 second delay. Say, so when I put it to 1.6, it was faster. So it's even when I take the hover off, it takes a long time to animate the background as well. So that's too much of a delay. So I'll put it back to what it was, 0.6. Okay, so if you've got many animations and you want to sequence them, in some sort of order, then delay comes in very handy. So it's one of the very useful things to tweak your animations. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and please subscribe to my channel, and see you in the next video. Thank you.